Welcome to this episode of the Modern Day Missionaries podcast. How's fundraising working for you? Are you feeling a little stuck in the past, trying to connect with supporters? It's not working. Well, today we talk about modern fundraising with Mary Valloni and Mike Kim. What can you do today that you couldn't do before? What are ways that you can modernize what it is that you're doing to connect with the supporters in a more effective way? And these two know what they're talking about. They're the founders of Fully Funded Academy and the authors of Fully Funded, amazing book. They're authors of other books as well. Mary is a fundraising expert. She worked for decades in large nonprofits fundraising, so she knows what she's doing. And Mike Kim is a branding marketing expert working with a ton of significant companies in this as well. And the two of them put their heads together and said, man, we want to help missionaries in this space. So they've been doing it for a number of years, are passionate about it. And so we talked today about fundraising through awkward transitions. How can you keep your supporters with you during those? We talk about the types of teams to create, teams within teams. We talk about how to brand yourself. Like, can missionaries even brand? Is that a thing? Is that God honoring? Yes. They show how to do it in a way that's God honoring, that brings glory to Him and finances into your ministry so you can do great work for the Lord. How to even do that from a closed country, which could seem impossible, but it's not. And they show you how. And then they talk about the 3 essential stories that you want to be able to tell, and so much more. So if you're looking for something to kickstart your fundraising, to get you excited and give you ideas about what to do next, you're going to love today's episode with Mike and Mary. Hey, Mary. Hey, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so good to be here.
It is. And you guys, we're talking finances today. And I think you bring such a unique voice into this topic of fundraising because of your very, very modern perspective. And I'm grateful for it. So I just want to kick off asking you guys from the get-go, if you both could wave a magic wand and change how missionaries fundraise worldwide, what would instantly look different?
Mary, you go first.
Okay. So I'm a 20-year plus, 2-decade plus fundraiser. Okay. So I love fundraising. This is like my call on my life. Okay. So I love it. And I wish if I could wave a magic wand that people would like absolutely get rid of all of the garbage that, all the things, the stories and all the things that they've heard about fundraising, and be able to really come from it with a fresh perspective, and just be able to like actually enjoy the process. Because I know everybody who is a missionary who's called to do this, they love people. So I would just love for people just to love people and not worry about the money. Like stop fussing about it. So that's my magic wand. No fussing on fundraising.
Yeah, and if I were to add something to that, like one of the things I always say, because I come from a marketing background, is that marketing isn't about closing a sale, it's about opening a relationship. And that takes a lot of the burden off of people's shoulders. Well, if I could apply that to fundraising, raising support isn't about just closing a donation, it's about opening these relationships and sustaining them. So if we could make it more relational, more conversational, more human, I think it would go a much further, we would just get things further down the field. It'd just be way better for everybody involved, because there's a lot of elephants in the room around fundraising. And also, can I say this? Did they do that? Did they unsubscribe from my email list? Did they cut off their support? Who do I talk to? There's like a lot of elephants. So let's just get the elephants out of the room and just keep it real human.
That's so good. And you both bring in these unique perspectives, like you said, Mike, with your marketing background, Mary, with all of your fundraising expertise. And what you just said there, Mike, was so good about the opening of a relationship instead of the closing of a deal. Because this isn't sales. One thing you both did not say is you don't have background in sales and closing deals. So say more about that. What does opening the relationship look like versus closing the deal? How does a missionary behave differently in each of those mindsets?
Yeah, so what I would say there, I think the big shift, and Mary alluded to this, is a lot of the people we've worked with, like missionaries, fundraisers, support raisers, they have a lens that kind of colors their experience. It says that I need to tell others about what I'm supposed to be doing or what God has called me to do. And so what they announce and share into the world is really through their own perspective, but they don't listen to what their donors are going through or what their supporters are potentially going through. And that's a very normal thing, but it's not, doesn't mean it's healthy. So when we look at any kind of relationship, the conversation has to go two ways, right? There's no such thing as a healthy relationship when you don't have good communication. And there's no such thing as good, healthy, one-sided communication. So when we work with our students, with our members, we just say, hey, once in a while, let your donors feel like they have a voice, that we are hearing them. I always love that little proverb, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So listen twice as much as you talk. And a lot of fundraising, a lot of support raising is built around, traditionally, just talk more about your mission, talk more about what you want. That's not what's happening now. We see how people's behavior changes with social media. You have to listen. You have to hear. You have to give people space. So I think that's a huge shift.
Yeah. For sure.
There's no such thing as good, healthy, one-sided communication. That is really well said. And I think we often aren't trained in the art of listening. You don't think about listening well when you're thinking about fundraising. You think about speaking well. And certainly there are elements of that. We'll touch on that today, that communication side of what is coming out my mouth. But Mike, you bring up, what are we taking in our ears? How can, and Mary, how can somebody lean into that more relational side? How can you be a good listener while still trying to share your story?
Yeah, I find that especially your listeners, I mean, like they got a long list of things that they do. Like they have a lot of programs and services and how they care for people. And so it's easy to just want to like just vomit all this information on the person who's sitting across the table or across the video call from you. And if you actually listen to the person who's talking, you can then weed out all of the noise that you have in your head about, well, we do this and we do that and we do this and we do that. And you can start to say, oh, they actually really care about this. And so then I can hone my whole conversation around the thing that they care about. And now I'm not wasting their time talking about things that, yeah, we do all of those things too, but that's not what they're passionate about. So listen, especially in the beginning of the conversation, get them talking first, and allow them the opportunity to say, you know, what are you interested in when you give to missions? Have you given to missions? What are you passionate about? And listen for what they're saying. And you may learn quickly that you're not aligned. They may have zero interest in the work that you're doing. And so instead of vomiting all this information about your mission, maybe it's a better fit for you to talk about a partnering mission or a friend who's doing something. And that person is going to be like, wow, you're like, that surprises me. Like that you actually want to help me, and that'll all come back to help you in the long run. So I just really encourage that. I'm like, you got too much stuff going on. There's no reason to just share all that information in one setting. It should just be a specific message that you're sharing with them based on their interests.
That's such a kingdom-minded perspective too. Like, I want to help you connect with something that feels meaningful to you. And I love that, Mary, just that paying attention to what is it that you're saying that's connecting with your with their heart. And if you're not really listening, you're going to miss those clues. I think of all the times where I've seen people do it, and I'm sure that I've done it in the past earlier on too, where you feel like I got to get through what I need to say. And sometimes you feel like you're starting to lose somebody. Have you guys ever seen this where you start to lose somebody, their eyes start to kind of glaze over, you know they're going, and so you quickly say the rest of the thing as fast as you can because you got to get it all out and you just got to say it, and they're gone at that point. Yeah. So if you're looking and noticing their eyes and noticing what they're paying attention to, I'd ask you guys, like as example, if you see that happening to somebody, what could a missionary do in that moment?
I think it's just a human thing, Stephanie, where it's like if I'm having a conversation with Mary, or I'm out with someone to dinner, if I go on a date, let's say, okay, and this person's just nonstop talking, and I'm looking at my watch, I'm just like eyeballing over there. It's just a conversational thing. Like, all right, let me just, you know what? I feel like I've talked a lot. I'm sorry, I haven't actually asked you anything. What are you interested in? Like, what are you up to? What's important to you? What is God blessing in your life right now? And then you have a natural dialogue. There's so much more that's happening in those conversations than just the words that we're speaking, right? We all know this. There's nonverbal cues. There's that energy. That's that emotion. It's how's your nervous system feel when you're talking to this person? And a lot of times, I think a lot of our missionaries and ministry friends, they are in that state because I've got to close this. And it's like, okay, let's chill, just have a conversation. They've already said yes. They're sitting across the table from you. Ask them a little bit more about what they're interested in, what they're working on, what they're excited about. So a couple of questions that we encourage our people to consider using. Hey, what's God blessing right now in your life? Or what are you really excited about the rest of this year? Like, what's the most excited thing you're most excited about the rest of this year? Or do you have any travel plans coming up? Like, these are just very human questions where then you start to see what they're interested in, where they're going. I don't have any plans to go anywhere right now, but I just got back from a trip from Uganda, which happened to me a couple months ago. That's a conversation starter. Then within that, you weave the different things that you want to talk about. It's just like a conversation. It's just a conversation. So if you see their eyes glaze over, just pump the brakes and say, okay, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. What's going on with you? I'm sorry. I just really appreciate you. What's going on with you? And then that's it. You know, it's just people will have compassion and understanding for that. We've all done that to other people. So
Yeah.
That's such a good example of being on a date, because you're right. On a date, you're really attuned and you're paying attention to how you're coming across and what the other person's saying, because you're trying to establish a relationship. And it is in a similar way, you're trying to establish a relationship, to grow a relationship. And sometimes I think you can think, if I do all the listening and they're just talking and I haven't talked much about my mission, like, they're going to want to give, but people are giving to the person over the project. I mean, as much as we do want them to connect with what it is they're doing, I mean, you see people who have been in missions for decades and supporters who follow them through all of these iterations of their ministries. It's because they believe in the person, which, to your guys' point, the relationship is the most important part. So that's great. I love that we touched on that, because I don't think we have in another episode before. And that listening piece is crucial. Let's talk more about that, the support team, because you guys have some great things. I got to mention, they have a book called Fully Funded that is outstanding, because not only does it go into a lot of the whys, but you guys have tools in there that I have not seen in any other fundraising book out there that I love. Oh, and I'll mention one. You guys talk about a team document, this formal one that you give supporters with expectations and benefits. Unpack that a little bit for me, because that was so interesting to see.
Yeah. So this really goes back to my fundraising days. What I find is really interesting is that in the ministry space, on a church level, everybody understands committees. You know, they understand, I need, somebody to lead our women's ministry, somebody to lead men's ministry, kids ministry, any kind of expansion that the church is having. You need a committee to make that happen. Every single nonprofit, I'm just telling you, I've worked in a lot of them, is that every single nonprofit has committees. If they want to do a building campaign, committee. They want to do a fundraiser, committee. Okay, so every single organization, I just want to make that really clear, they all function because the only way they can expand is because of committees. And when it comes to missionaries and ministry support, every single person that Mike and I have trained have come from a background of training where they're told, go it alone. Do it by yourself. And that is counter to every single thing that every single missionary is actually doing on the mission field. Right? Discipleship is the core, that is the core to most missionaries and their expansion of the kingdom, right? Like, they're going out and doing discipleship and building up teams and small groups. And so that's what this team, this concept is all about. Is Mike and I are passionate. I'm like, what? I just think that it's crazy to me that in the missionary space that this isn't just common knowledge. And so Mike and I are bringing this concept, through Fully Funded, because I was just like, this is normal behavior for any 501c3 nonprofit, any religious organization. They are doing it in committee. So anyways, this is just taking on to that concept. So nobody's made up anything. Nobody's created anything from scratch. P.S. This template that's inside of our book was totally stolen from my background working for $1 billion.
Adapted.
Not
adapted, Mary.
It is absolutely adapted. adapted. But that's what I mean. It's like, it works. I've raised millions and millions and millions of dollars off of this concept and this template. So anyways, all it is it's basically saying 3 to 5 people, will you come alongside us and help us become fully funded? That's really all it is. It's a line by line saying like, hey, this is what you're agreeing to. Because people who are busy, who are entrepreneurs, who are, business leaders, marketers, salespeople, whatever they do in their day job, most likely they're used to a job description. And that's really what we're giving to our missionaries. We're saying, here's a job description to give to someone so that they can volunteer with you. And so that's really all it is. And I think a lot of people get caught up in the description because they're like, oh, this is too formal. And it's like, it's formal because you're a professional. Like, this is your full-time job. You're raising funds as your full-time job. So you need to look professional. You need to look like you just didn't come off the streets. And so this document invites people to come alongside you and help you actually get fully funded and raise your full support.
And it is really professional.
Yeah, I'll say, like, one of the things we always say is that fundraising is not a solo sport.
Yes.
And every missionary, literally 100% of the people who have done that step 3 in our book, enlist your team, has gotten fully funded. 100% of them. Because it's no longer predicated on just them. I think there's a lot of Lone Rangerism, right, in this, and that's understandable. You're going alone. You're often going just you and your partner or your spouse. You're raising a team there. You're developing ministry teams. You're planting churches. You're leading the Bible studies all alone. And one of the most common things we hear is, my support has dried up. I don't know anyone back stateside anymore. Well, of course, because you're not back home. So find people who do live there and ask them to help further the mission. Anytime that I've gotten real clarity on what it is that what do you need me to do? What would you like me to do? Then let your yes be yes and let your no be no, right? It's just biblical. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. And to Mary's point, a lot of these people, they function like this day in and day out. If I say yes to it, I don't want to do it halfway. I'm going to go all the way for you. So just let me know what that means. And then we can move forward. Clarity is power. Clarity is love. Clarity is I value you and what I know you can do, and I hope that I'm being clear on what I need. And then let's go build this together. So that's a big piece. It's not a solo sport.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of the things you touched on, that, Mike, is clarity, that I've noticed in a lot of the tools that you guys have in here, is they are really clear. And it's so interesting. I love that we did the formal document next to the conversation on listing. And I kind of did that on purpose to show you guys are into helping people create teams that are highly relational and highly professional. And I think that's part of that modern thing that we were talking about earlier. How are you guys different? How can we do things in a more modern way? There's the whole ma and pop, like, I get a little bit of money from all these people and I send them some cards. And I mean, that's cool. Like, be relational, send cards, make phone calls, lean into the relational, and create documents with expectations, and not use what you guys have already created, and be formal about it, because you're going to have people on your team who are business leaders, and they're not going to maybe want to lean into the relational side as much. They just want to know where to invest their finances, and they need something super pro looking that lines it all out. And then you're going to have like a grandma who's maybe like, I don't really care about this document. I'll totally sign it. I just love you. And so by having both ready and available, by being strong in both areas, you are poising yourself to create a robust team. Say a little bit more about some of the things that you guys do with that team. How do you appeal to the sweet grandma who just wants to chat on the phone and the super high-powered business person?
Yeah. Let me just hit on some clarity there. I'm not inviting grandma to be on this team. Okay.
Okay. All right.
And we're going to be really clear on the term team, because we use it in support raising all the time. Everybody's like, be on my support team. And so the document that we're talking about, and just this structure that we have in Fully Funded, is about 3 to 5 high level volunteers These are
Gotcha.
not just donors to your organization. These are like the best donors. And not to say that grandma's not great, but like we're talking about like the ones that are praying, who are inviting other people to hear about your mission. They're advocating on your behalf. They're the ones that are like, Pastor, you need to meet my friends Sue and John. Like they're amazing. They're changing lives in Africa, right? Like those are the kinds of people we're talking about. And we're only talking about 3 to 5 of them. So we don't need a lot. Grandma, continue to give. Grandma, we love you. Keep doing what you're doing. And friends and family, great. Some of those friends and family might fit this role, but oftentimes it's like, I work with, Mike does too. We work with a lot of college, missionaries. They're working in the college setting. I'm like, the parents of your students. Like, they're the ones that are like, I want my kid to be saved. I want my kid to go out in the mission field. I want them to have an experience. I don't want them going into a fraternity or sorority or whatever the situation is. And they have the ability to advocate on your behalf. They run a business, whatever it is, they're a voice in their church. Those are the people that can easily start to advocate on your behalf. And every single person is just so different. That's what, some people are super introverted, and some people are super extroverted, and some people are in the middle, where it's like, I can preach, I can get up in front of people, but I need to go take a nap afterwards, right? And the nice thing is that these 3 to 5 people are going to most likely be a lot like you. They've somehow managed to run a business or be a leader in their church, well, being kind of like you. So I often say that I'm like, if you're super nerdy and introverted, great, go find super nerdy and introverted people to come join you, right? Like, and something that Mike has said on just some of our recent calls that we've had inside of Fully Funded Academy is he's like, double down on who you are. Like we are all about, like, God made you the way that you are on purpose. So you don't have to become this extrovert to now raise funds. Like there's plenty of people who are not going to buy into the extrovertedness, and they love you. They love how quirky you are. They love how you write or how you speak. And you just be authentically who God created you to be. So anyway, I just want to highlight that I was just like, have grandma give her money. But we're talking about high level, people who can actually advocate on your behalf.
I love that you clarified that, because I should clarify, there are some super cool grandmas out there who are like killing it, and they are actually the business people too. So
and they might be the one for your list.
But thank you for clarifying that this is really a team within a team. So this is not everybody on your team,
right?
So and Mike, you were about to say something, so I want to hear what you're going to say, but I also want to make sure to follow that up by asking you about branding, because Mary just started to allude to that, and I know that's your background.
Yeah, and branding, well, I'll get into that in a second, but like even if we look at scripture and how Jesus built his team, Son of God, by Matthew chapter 4, he's enlisting disciples. And the scripture says his name spread through all of Syria. It's not because he was driving around in a Tesla and he had chartered flights everywhere. It's because people were telling others about him. If you really look at, like, I remember when I was in seminary, we were looking at why Capernaum. Like, why did he start so much ministry in Capernaum? It's because it was like a trade city. So he had doctors, lawyers in his disciple group, but he also had fishermen who traveled to other regions who were multilingual, in and out of the port. And if you really think about that from a natural perspective, that's like a really good strategic move.
Yeah.
Right? It's a really smart strategic move. And the crowds got to a point where he couldn't travel easily anymore. But that wasn't because he had a huge megaphone or a huge social media account. It's because people were talking. His people spread those stories. So we go into branding. We talk about, what is branding? Branding is just identity, right? It's just identity. It comes from the age-old principle of burning like an identifying mark, right, onto cattle. Mm-hmm. And it's so that you can make a snap decision, a snap recognition in an instant whose cow that is. But now, so this concept of branding was like, we were doing some research around this, and it started with a guy named Josiah Wedgwood, who was born in the 1800s. He was an English potter, and he entered a pottery competition that Queen Charlotte put on. He won it, and he dubbed it Queensware. That's like the first example that we can historically all go back to and say, someone labeled a product. Someone brand, like in our modern understanding of it, he pioneered free delivery, money back guarantees. It wasn't Jeff Bezos and Amazon. It was this guy. And so when we take that into the ministry context, I'll be really real here. I was on staff for a number of years at church and the whole deal. It's like we have all skipped church because the senior pastor was out of town that week. We have all gone late to worship service because we didn't like the person who was leading worship. But if it was the other person that week, we would go early. Aren't we there for God, Stephanie? We're there for, quote unquote, the Lord, right? But we make those kind of decisions. We really do. We have to understand that there's a human element that not even God can overcome in that sense, right? He can't make everybody come to church to hear that preacher and come early for the worship, right? So it's the same thing with a lot of our friends who are raising support. It's the same thing. So when we talk about branding, it's what are your ideas, your expertise, your reputation, your personality. It's a mixture of those things. What are people saying about you when you're not in the room so that you can get into rooms? And we're all kind of around the same generation. It's like we would call that back in the day like reputation, but now it's known as branding because we have these social concepts, social media platforms. So we look at it very, very simple. Just, are you recommendable? Commend means to praise, right? So recommend literally means to praise again. That's what Mary was saying. Like, recommend this to others, recommend you to other people. It's that simple. It's super simple in that sense.
And I think some missionaries feel uncomfortable with the term branding. So I'm glad you broke it down there, because it can feel like, I don't want to draw attention to myself. I want to draw attention to the Lord. And how can missionaries brand themselves in a way that is healthy, that is God honoring, lean into the awkwardness without crossing over into that I'm a superstar? Not like missionaries can even become superstars. This is not the field where you become a superstar.
Anything's possible nowadays, but it's a great question. So it was funny because when we were thinking through these concepts, I remember this. It's like a weird story. Like when I was in youth group, I wrote a worship song. I was the worship leader at our church, and I wrote this song, and I taught it to our band. Songwriting back then, I'm 46. This was not normal when you grew up in youth group in New Jersey. You just sing everyone else's songs that are on the CDs. And so I taught it to my band, and they were like, "Oh, this is a really good song. Where can we hear this recording?" And there wasn't one because it was mine. And I lied to them, and I said it's an old Vineyard song that is not on a record anywhere, because I felt so self-conscious, Stephanie, to your point, about drawing attention to myself that I actually sinned to not draw attention to myself. I just lied outright to everybody, right? I was like, it's just an old Vineyard, thinking I was doing the right thing by being modest. And then eventually they're like, I told a friend or whatever, he just told everybody, and they were like, "Why are you being so bashful about this?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe I'm afraid of you guys liking it, or maybe afraid that you don't like it, or maybe the youth group or the church won't like it." And then I had to really unravel all that. Now, I can do that as an adult now, but when I was a kid then, I didn't understand that. I was like, I'm scared of like putting myself out there and being really held accountable in the free open market of public opinion on whether I'm doing a good job with this or not, or whether this is working or not. I'm tying a lot of my own personal worth to this. And we see a lot of our friends do that in the mission space. Like, my personal worth is tied to who I can talk to, who's in my network, how much money I can raise. So we try to really simplify it and say, here's a 7-step progression that we all go through when we talk about brands. Mary and I use iPhones. Stephanie, I don't know what you use, but I remember when that iPhone came out. If you don't know Apple, or you don't know about the iPhone, you don't even have a chance to like it. If you like it, then you'll start to trust them. So it's know, like, trust, try, give, repeat, refer. If we don't know about the iPhone, we're not going to have a chance to like it. If we don't like the iPhone, we're never going to build trust with it. If we don't trust it, we're never going to try it out. If we don't try it out, we're never going to buy it. But in the support raising space, it's not buy, it's give, right? And then you repeat. I've bought how many iPhones, Mary? You've bought every new model every year.
Yes.
She doesn't wait for the contract to expire. Then she refers it out. It's just like Jimmy John's sausage when you walk through Costco, and it's the same thing. You have to meet Stephanie. You have to meet Mary and Mike, and they're like, Mike, Mary, you have to meet Stephanie. You need to know each other. Then we hang out. It's like, oh, we like each other. We have some mutual friends, and then now we're spending all this time together. We start to trust each other more.
That's a real story that happened.
Yeah,
we were connected together.
It's so human. So what we try to do is make it real simple so they understand, and then we say, it's your job to build the know, like, trust, try. Most people go from know to give. And they don't take the responsibility. It's like you're asking them to get married on the first date. I know that's happened for some people, but it doesn't normally happen, right? So the hard work is give them an opportunity to like you, trust you, and try you out. And that's where your newsletters, your social content, your speaking at church, your one-on-ones, that's where that all comes into play. So hopefully that helps a lot of people understand where this all falls into place.
Yeah.
Very much so, and I appreciate you sharing that story. I actually laughed when I read it in the book because you're like, I sinned instead of just
being
saying
honest,
the truth out of humility. So I'll go vulnerable right back at you. When they were creating the podcast cover for this podcast, we were going through a bunch of different designs, and I just wanted something simple with just the words on it. And I remember the suggestion came back to have my face on it. Well, based on my Christian background, I was like, I don't want that. That makes me feel very, very uncomfortable. Like, I'm not really sure how I thought I could do a podcast by being invisible. Like, I don't really know how that works out, but it was super, super uncomfortable. Like you said, like I was stressing out. Like, what are people going to think of me? And are they going to think I'm trying to make a name for myself? All these crazy thoughts that go through your head. And probably there are some people who do think that. And if they do, oh well. And we just get to deal with that. But I think that for many missionaries, they have been raised so much to be behind the scenes, to not be visible, that it can feel like sinning to put yourself out there. Yeah. But it can get to the point where we become the person who hides our talent in the ground, in the hole in the ground. And so it's a tension. It's not a problem to be solved. It's a tension to manage. Lord, how can I honor you with who you've created me to be? How can I put myself out there in a God-honoring way? Without getting into this weird pride place. And so people who are looking to do it perfectly, you're not. I mean, I know we can all say that. We're all in these positions. You can't do it perfectly. Give it a shot. Invite some good mentors into your life. Yeah. Put it before the Lord constantly, and he'll give you feedback on how to do it and how to do it right. But yeah, it does need to happen. And for each person, when you say he calls them to probably do it in a different way, depending on their personality, like you said, Mary, and maybe the spaces they find themselves in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and for all of you guys that are called up to do this work, you are the face of the people that you serve. I mean, Stephanie, you are the face of the people who listen to the show. Like, you represent a lot of voices. And so when you invite Mike and I into your space, it's like you're representing all these people saying, hey, I have to bring stuff to them that's going to actually serve them well. And I put my name and my face on that because this is what God has called me to do. So every single one of you are called to serve a certain population. And if you don't say anything, if you don't speak up, guess who doesn't get served? Your people. And so that's where we're saying, get your face out there, be bold, go talk to people, go invite people in. And if they say no to you, who cares? Like you're obedient to go share the message. And like you said, Stephanie, if they think something, who cares? That's on them. That's their own decision. But I just find that I'm like, if you run a nonprofit, if you run a business, anything you're in charge of, if you're a leader at your church, you were put in that position to speak on behalf of the people that you serve. And so speak up. That's what it's like. We need you to be bold, put your face on some stuff and go say good things about your people so that other people can fund it.
Yeah. And all that to say, it's so much more expected now because of social media. We're used to, your headshot is your best logo. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, then use it. Like, use your face. We always tell people that. If you're not in a closed nation, use your face like God gave it to you, right? It's the easiest way for us to make quick recognition, quick pattern recognition. Who is this person? What do they do? What are they about? And it's that simple. We always identify people, that way. It's totally human. It's totally normal. So
Yeah. Okay. To jump in on what you just said there, Mike, I'm picking up. You mentioned unless you're a missionary in a closed nation. I'd love to lean into that for a second. I had not thought about it from this branding perspective. How do you brand yourself? How do you do some of the things we are creating if you are in a closed space where you can't necessarily do that?
Yeah, I think that's where, and Mary can expound on this, that's where number one, what we talked about a few minutes ago, your team is super important because they need to go do those things for you. We've had many folks who come through our programs, and we'll sit down with them and talk about what's going on. So we have support letters that we've written for missionaries who are raising support for work in closed nations. And in fact, one of our coaches inside Fully Funded, Dr. Don Allen, primarily works with people who are in closed nations. So there are little things like use code words in your correspondence, train your people to understand that when I say the book or the word, we don't use the word Bible or scripture or God with an apostrophe. Yeah, the M word, they say. Yeah. But that's why it's so important to have that team and actually leverage that in a good way to your advantage. Like, you're part of the secret society here. You're part of the secret inner club. Don, who's I think in his 70s now, I just saw him yesterday online for a call. After he started working with us, he raised over 6 figures a year. Wow. And it's like he was still doing work, he says, from everywhere from so all Calcutta, all the way from Casablanca to Calcutta, he always says, and everywhere in between, like the parts of the world that we can't always talk about. But his team was back home, and his team was advocating for him. His team was raising support. So there's actually a good part to that where you can use it to your advantage in terms of like, hey, we're part of the secret club. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It makes me think of a book series I remember reading with my daughters when they were little, The Mysterious Benedict Society. Like, there's something about a club or a society that just feels so fun to be a part of. So that is a form of branding in and of itself right there. That's so good.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, you guys talk about these sticky stories as well in the book. Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, so I'll touch on that one because that was my part when I was writing it. So there are 3 types of stories that we want all of our friends to be able to tell at the drop of a hat. The first is the founder story. The second is the ministry's story or the organization's story, depending on how you're set up. And the third is the transformation story. We have found that most missionaries major on the transformation story, and understandably so. We will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, right? These are the testimonies, but they skimp out on the founder story and the ministry story. Who are you? Why did God call you to this? And why did this organization or ministry start? So the founder story is really about your origin story. And every character that we identify with, even in scripture, has an origin story. So Moses, we know his backstory. Joshua, we know the backstory. Samuel, David, we all know the backstory. Jesus himself, we know the backstory. Backstories matter. They're really important. He didn't just fall from the sky and be like, here I am, son of God. There was an origin story that we could identify with and see ourselves in so that we can build that relationship and that rapport. So if it's something as simple as Mary finding a card that slipped out of her dad's Bible after he had passed away, or the fact that she had to raise support from a very young age because she was the youngest of 82 kids, and all, right? Like, we had to put that in the book. We tell those stories a lot. How she and I even met. What's our origin story? Why are we friends? And we tell these stories. Like, she was recommended to a friend recommended her to me and each other, but she had heard of me and she wrote me a bunch of emails that I largely ignored for a year and a half. But then we found out she was sending them to the wrong account, so then I felt justified. And it's a funny story about how we came together. And then when we started Fully Funded Academy, we had a separate story for that because that is not who we are. It's an extension of the work that we do, but we do not find our identity in our ministry, whereas a lot of people do, even when I was in the ministry world. So we want to parse that. Why are you starting this ministry here? And here's the other thing. Sorry, I've been talking a while. Like, your identity, your assignments may change, but your identity does not. And we've had so many missionaries say to us, oh, we used to serve over here, but now we don't. And it's really difficult to explain what we do to somebody else because we're pivoting, or we're, the classic phrase, in transition.
Yeah.
And it's because you haven't majored on telling your origin story and why God called you to Calcutta, but now why he's calling you to Casablanca. You've tied it too much to the assignment rather than who your identity is. And so that's what it actually gives you a lot of flexibility down the road to move into new seasons of what the Lord is calling you to do, and you don't feel weird about it. So that's a huge piece, how that work started.
Oh, yeah. And I've experienced that personally. I think I shared this once years ago, but I remember when we had been on the field for a year, and in that time, my in-laws had asked us to kind of just give them a sabbatical, take over the church. So we do. And during that time, we split the church. Half of them leave. And so we went back with our story of like, what's the Lord doing? And we're like, well, people are leaving the church. That's praise God. But because people were tied to us, to who we were, and we knew who our identity was, like you said, we were able to explain it in such a way. And we laughed about it. You have to laugh. You have to be with people who get you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, there's some tears and some humor mixed in there. But I remember having friends who said to us, they go, hey, we believe in you guys and what God's called you to do. And we know that's going to iterate and change over the years. And they're like, did you think this was never going to happen? Like, of course this is going to happen. And it really does, like you said, help you through those transitions. Because then they're like, all right, well, what's God calling you into next? And they were with us as people. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good, Mike. I like that a lot.
I was just going to say, everybody thinks that the transition is like the worst thing to share with people. That it's like, oh my gosh, I got, God called me out of this and now we're moving here. And we're like, yeah, that's why support raising is so great, is because you're an entrepreneur. You're like, God called me here, I'm going to go here. And everybody, for the most part, gets that. And we do understand that sometimes people love international ministry, and then you move domestically, and then people are like, oh, I really like international and I don't want to serve. That's fine. But it's just nice because these stories don't come from an apologetic place, come from, this is like, look at what the Lord has done. And a lot of times it's because the assignment was finished. Like, we did what God called us to do there, and now we're getting moved because he raised up next generation of leaders. It's fine. It's healthy. Now we can move on to the next thing. Or it's not healthy and it's time to move on. It's like, and so whatever the story is, lean into that, but don't run away from it, and don't go radio silent. That's the message I hope people can hear, is that our modern way of helping people is, you have to communicate. You can't avoid storytelling. You can't just go hide.
Yes, and people will stay with you through the transitions. Yes. I think it's a myth that you won't. Even when we moved back to Minnesota, which is a whole crazy story in and of itself, people stayed with us. You're always going to lose some supporters. Like you mentioned at the very beginning, Mary, there are some people who are really tied into where you live and what you're doing. And that's okay. Yeah. God calls some people to you for a season. But we were shocked at the number of people who stayed with us through an awkward transition. And then as we started, a nonprofit to do retreats for Spanish-speaking pastors and missionaries, and so many of our supporters stayed with us, I think, because of that connection to us. And then we were able to tell a new story, even the story of the weirdness. It's a story. And that, as you guys have been saying, don't shy away from those. The silence is what makes people go away more than anything. Like, yes. People will stick with you more than you think they will. And I do think it's a myth that you're going to lose everybody. And
Agreed.
And I want to be sensitive, because some people have lost everybody. And I think there are circumstances where that can happen. And God's doing something behind the scenes for you. And that's where there are people like Mike and Mary, and you can call them up and say, hey, I have no idea how to tell my story anymore. I've lost all my people. I got to start all over. And that's why I'm grateful for coaches, because I think it's hard to do this kind of stuff all on your own. So I'd love for you guys to share how people can connect with you and learn more.
Yeah. Well, Mike and I, like you just mentioned on the coaching, like there's something about doing it with you and doing it with others. So oftentimes, Mike and I are like, we can give you the information, we can give you the steps. But to be honest with you, Mike was like so super generous that he just put everything in our book. He's just like, hey, here's all the templates, here's all the resources. But one thing that I think that is so great about what we do is we create a safe space for people to come together and learn together. So oftentimes people are like, it's not possible. There's no way. I've never been fully funded. I could never do that. And that's where Mike and I are like, there's no space for that in fully funded. We are all about creating a space of hope and allowing you a place to learn and grow, lean on each other. Too many people don't even know anyone who's fully funded anymore. Generation before us lived in poverty, and that's not okay. Like, I mean, you got too much work to get done, so you need the funding to actually support the people that God has called you to. So Fully Funded Academy is the best place for people to really get the resources, to get the coaching, and ultimately the community. I cannot say enough about our students. For anyone who's listening, who's been a student of ours or who is a student, you guys are the reason why people get fully funded. They see a success story, and we have a private Facebook group, and people post about, hey, I just got fully funded. And then it's like, oh, shoot, it's just not Mike and Mary talking about getting, like, that it's possible. It's like, oh, they're actually doing it. Then they can't keep their old story of lack and scarcity still going, because that's not actually true. And so I think, fullyfundedacademy.com is really the best place for you guys to find some resources. We're big on giving free resources too. Mike and I have been doing a YouTube channel to just bring these stories to light. We've got 2 incredible stories from our students, Nora and Adam. So like, if you want to jump over and listen to some encouragement, I would absolutely check out our YouTube channel and follow us there.
Yeah. And I would encourage everybody to pick up the book. And I think there are people, like you guys referenced, who will be able to read it, to get it, and to put it all into play.
Yep.
But it's kind of like somebody who wants to buy maybe a book about eating healthy. I think there are some people who can buy the book, can learn it, and can do it. And I think there are a lot of people who just need that extra help. So I'm going to say, if you feel like this is overwhelming, I don't know where to start, get a coach. I mean, I'm not a fundraising coach. I'm a different kind of coach, but I'm all about coaching, because I think that there's times for me, I have a coach as well. There are times where I want to do something and I need the accountability. I need the encouragement. I need somebody to just listen to me and help me break down how to do it. And so if you're stuck and a book is not enough, take the extra step. And that's what this podcast is all about. For all of you listeners, I put people in front of you who I feel like could be a blessing to your life. So check out Fully Funded Academy. Pick up a copy of the book, and I believe God's going to do something awesome in your finances and in your fundraising space.
Love it.
Thank you again so much for coming on, Mike and Mary. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
So much
Thank
fun. Thanks, Stephanie.
Hey, missionaries, I've got a question for you. How are your finances on the field? Also, are you feeling supported by your senders? At Modern Day Missions, we make it simple for missionaries to receive donations and for their donors to give. As the largest independent missions organization in the U.S., we process donations for more than 1,100 missionaries to and from countries all over the world, helping them get on the field and freeing them to focus on what they're called to do. And we also create and connect missionaries to resources that help them flourish on the field, like this weekly podcast, fundraising coaching, and our resource-packed newsletter. So connect with us at modernday.org to explore our free resources and discover how we can serve you. We're so glad you joined us today.